Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty's Edge and watched the stars through the main screen. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast. Today was the day that would change everything for humanity. The first alien ship had appeared near Earth's moon 3 days ago. It was huge and silver and moved without making any sound through space. The alien ship looked like a giant crystal with sharp edges. It was 10 times bigger than Earth's biggest space station. Blue lights moved along its surface in patterns that hurt to look at. Jake had been in space for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like the ship. Captain Lisa Grant walked onto the bridge. She was the best diplomat Earth had ever trained. Her job was to talk to the aliens and make sure this first meeting went well. Lisa had spent her whole life learning about different cultures and languages. She could speak 12 human languages. But today she would need to learn something completely new. The communication system made a sound. The aliens were trying to talk. The main screen changed and showed a creature that made everyone on the bridge take a step back. It had silver skin. That looked like metal. 4 arms moved as it spoke. Its eyes were completely black and seemed to look right through them. When it opened its mouth, they could see teeth like broken glass. The alien spoke in a voice that sounded like metal scraping against stone. The translation computer worked hard to turn its words into English. I am Lord Vex Corvain of the Zalarian Galactic Empire. You will listen, and you will obey. Lisa stepped forward and spoke into the microphone. Welcome to our solar system. I am Captain Lisa Grant, representing Earth and all of humanity. We are pleased to meet you and hope we can be friends. Lord Vex made a sound that might have been laughing, but it was not a happy sound. Friends? You small creatures do not understand. The Zalarian Empire has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We have conquered 3,000 worlds. Your planet will join our empire, or your people will die. The bridge became very quiet. Jake felt his blood turn cold. This was not the peaceful first contact that everyone had hoped for. The alien continued talking. You have primitive technology and weak bodies. Your ships are toys compared to ours. Your weapons cannot harm us. We give you 72 hours to surrender completely. Lisa tried to stay calm, but Jake could see her hands shaking a little. We cannot agree to surrender our world. Perhaps we can find another way to solve this problem. We can offer trade or knowledge exchange. Lord Vex moved 2 of his 4 arms in a gesture that looked angry. There is no negotiation with lower species. You will become slaves, or you will become ash. We have destroyed entire star systems that refuse to obey. Your sun itself can be extinguished if we choose. The screen went dark. The alien ship moved away from Earth, but it did not leave the solar system. Instead, more ships appeared. Jake counted them through the sensors. 10 ships, then 50, then 100. By the end of the day, there were 500 alien ships surrounding Earth and all its space stations. Down on Earth, people were scared. The news channels showed the alien ships hanging in space like dark clouds. Some people ran to the mountains. Others gathered in churches and schools. The world leaders met in emergency sessions, but nobody knew what to do. In a secret laboratory buried deep under the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Alex Chon was working on something that might save humanity. Alex was one of the smartest people on Earth when it came to nuclear physics. For the past 5 years, he had been working on a project that most people thought was impossible. He was trying to figure out how to make stars. Alex was not alone in the laboratory. Engineer Maya Rodriguez was there too. Maya could build anything if she had the right parts and enough time. She had built the machines that Alex needed for his experiments. Together, they had discovered something amazing. They could trigger nuclear fusion in gas planets and turn them into small stars. The project started as a way to create new energy sources for human colonies. If they could turn the gas giants and empty solar systems into stars, then humans could live on the planets around them. But now Alex and Maya realized their discovery could be used as a weapon. Maya was welding metal parts together when the news about the aliens came on the radio. She stopped working and looked at Alex. "Do you think it will work against them?" Alex looked at the data on his computer screen. "If we can get the devices close enough to Jupiter, we might be able to turn it into a star. The energy release would be visible from other star systems. It might be enough to blind their sensors or damage their ships." In another part of the world, Tony Russo was fixing an old truck in his garage. Tony had been a mechanic for 20 years and could repair almost anything with an engine. When he heard about the aliens on the radio, he did not run or hide like many other people. Instead, he started thinking about how to fight back. Tony called his friend Danny Brown, who flew crop dusting planes over the local farms. "Danny, we need to talk. Bring your plane and some tools. I have an idea." At the same time, teacher Karen Wells was in her classroom talking to her students. Even though the aliens had given Earth 3 days to surrender, the schools were still open. Karen believed that keeping normal life going was important. She told her students that humans had always found ways to survive difficult times, but Karen was also making plans. That evening, she met with other teachers and parents in the school basement. They talked about how to protect the children if the aliens attacked. Karen had been in the army before she became a teacher. She knew how to organize people and how to use weapons. Admiral Susan Wright was in the Space Command Center looking at reports from all over the solar system. Earth had 30 spaceships that could fight, but they were small compared to the alien vessels. Most of Earth's ships were designed to carry cargo or explore planets. They were not built for war. Susan had an idea that might work. Earth had many space stations around different planets. Most of them were used for mining or research. If they could put weapons on these stations, they might be able to surprise the aliens. The aliens probably thought humans were too primitive to fight back. Meanwhile, underground in many countries, people were preparing for the worst. Lieutenant Pete Jackson was in a military bunker looking at weapons and supplies. Pete had fought in wars on Earth, but he had never fought aliens before. He was training soldiers to use any weapon they could find. If the aliens came to Earth's surface, the humans would be ready. Dr. Chun and Maya worked through the night, building their stellar ignition device. It was not very big, but it contained technology that could change the balance of power in the solar system. They were racing against time. The aliens had given Earth 72 hours and already 1 day was gone. As the second day began, people all over Earth were making final preparations. Some were building shelters. Others were gathering weapons. Many were just spending time with their families. Nobody knew what would happen when the time limit ended, but everyone knew that life would never be the same. Lord Vex Corvain sat in his command ship and watched Earth through his sensors. The planet looked small and weak. The humans had primitive technology and no real weapons. Their ships were barely capable of space travel. He was confident that this would be an easy conquest. The Lord Commander sent a message to his fleet. "Prepare the plasma cannons. When the time limit ends, we will show these creatures the power of this Alarian empire. Their cities will burn, and their people will kneel before us." But Lord Vex did not know about the secret weapons that humans were building. He did not know about the stellar ignition device or the plans that Admiral Wright was making. Most importantly, he did not understand the most dangerous thing about humans. When they were cornered and had no way to escape, they became willing to do anything to survive. The countdown to war had begun, and the galaxy was about to learn that underestimating humanity was a deadly mistake. The 72 hours were over, and Lord Vex Corvain gave the order to attack. Bright green beams of plasma energy shot down from the alien ships toward Earth's biggest cities. New York was hit first. The Empire State Building melted like ice. Cream under the alien weapons. People screamed and ran through the streets as more buildings fell. London was next. The plasma beams cut through the city like hot knives through butter. Big Ben collapsed in a shower of molten metal. In Tokyo, the bright lights went out forever as alien energy weapons turned the downtown area into burning ruins. Millions of people died in the first hour of the attack, but the aliens had made their first mistake. They thought humans would panic and surrender immediately. Instead, something different happened. The attacks made humans angry. Very angry. Colonel Pete Jackson was in a bunker under Washington when the first plasma beams hit the city above. He watched the ceiling shake as explosions echoed overhead. Pete had been waiting for this moment. He grabbed his radio and called all the hidden military bases around the world. "This is Colonel Jackson. Operation Desperate Hour begins now. All units attack with everything you have." On the dark side of Earth's moon, Admiral Susan Wright was waiting in a secret command center. The aliens did not know that humans had been building weapons there for 2 years. The moon base had 30 railguns that could shoot metal projectiles at incredible speed. These were not energy weapons like the aliens used. They were simple kinetic weapons that worked by hitting things very hard. "Fire all railguns at the nearest alien ship," Susan ordered. The railguns shot huge pieces of metal at the alien vessel hanging over Earth. The aliens were not expecting this kind of attack. Their energy shields were designed to stop plasma weapons and laser beams. But the simple metal projectiles went right through the shields like they were not even there. The first alien ship exploded in a ball of fire. Pieces of silver metal scattered through space. Inside the other alien ships, alarms started ringing. Lord Vex could not believe what he was seeing on his screens. How did their primitive weapons penetrate our shields? He demanded data science. Officer was checking the data with all 4 of his arms moving quickly over the controls. "Lord Commander, the humans are using kinetic projectiles instead of energy weapons. Our shields cannot stop solid matter moving at high velocity." On Earth's surface, Colonel Pete was leading an attack on alien forces that had landed in Central Park. The aliens wore silver armor and carried weapons that shot green energy beams. Pete's soldiers had old-fashioned rifles and explosives. It should have been an unfair fight, but Pete quickly discovered something important. The alien armor was designed to deflect energy weapons just like their ship shields. When his soldiers shot bullets at the aliens, the metal projectiles went right through their armor. The aliens fell down and did not get back up. "Keep firing," Pete shouted to his soldiers. "Their fancy armor does not work against bullets." Danny Brown was flying his old crop dusting plane toward an alien ship that was hovering over a farm in Kansas. The back of his plane was loaded with fertilizer bombs that Tony Russo had helped him build. The aliens probably thought the small human aircraft was not dangerous. Danny flew right up to the alien ship and dumped his explosive cargo on top of it. The fertilizer bombs were simple but effective. They blew holes in the alien ship's hull, and it crashed into the cornfield below. Danny's plane was damaged by the explosion, but he managed to land safely in a nearby pasture. Dr. Alex Chun and Maya Rodriguez were in their underground laboratory, making final preparations for their secret weapon. They had built a device that could trigger nuclear fusion in Jupiter and turn the gas giant into a temporary star. The device was loaded onto a small spacecraft that Maya had modified for the mission. "Are you sure this will work?" Maya asked. As she checked the rocket engines, Alex looked at his calculations one more time. "The math says it should work. When Jupiter ignites, it will release more energy than 1,000 nuclear bombs. Any alien ship within 1,000,000 kilometers will be severely damaged. Meanwhile, Corinne Wells was organizing civilians in her school. She had turned the building into a fortress, using desks and filing cabinets to block the windows. Corinne had taught her fellow teachers, and some of the older students, how to use the hunting rifles that parents had brought from their homes. When 3 aliens tried to enter the school, Corinne and her group were ready. The aliens expected to find scared humans hiding in corners. Instead, they found an organized defense force that knew how to fight. The aliens' energy weapons were powerful, but they could only shoot in straight lines. The humans used mirrors and reflective surfaces to bounce the energy beams back at their attackers. In space, Admiral Susan Wright was coordinating attacks from hidden bases throughout the solar system. Earth had secret weapons platforms hidden in the asteroid belt and near several of the outer planets. These platforms had been disguised to look like mining equipment or research stations. All hidden platforms opened fire, Susan commanded. Suddenly, the aliens found themselves under attack from directions they had not expected. Simple human weapons were hitting their ships from all over the solar system. The aliens had superior technology, but the humans had better tactics and the element of surprise. Tony Russo was leading a group of mechanics and factory workers in an attack on aliens who had landed near Detroit. Tony had converted several bulldozers and construction vehicles into improvised tanks. The vehicles had steel plates welded to their sides and machine guns. Mounted on top. The aliens shot their energy weapons at the modified bulldozers, but the thick steel armor protected the humans inside. Tony drove his bulldozer right into a group of aliens and knocked them down. His friends followed behind him in other converted vehicles. "These things work better than real tanks," Tony shouted over the noise of the engines. "The aliens do not know how to fight against construction equipment." Dr. Chun's spacecraft reached Jupiter and deployed the stellar ignition device. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the gas giant began to glow. The glow became brighter and brighter until Jupiter looked like a small sun. The new star's light was so bright it could be seen from Earth during the daytime. The energy released by Jupiter's ignition created an electromagnetic pulse that traveled throughout the solar system. Alien ships that were too close to Jupiter lost power and began drifting helplessly through space. Their advanced navigation systems stopped working because they could not handle the intense radiation from the new star. Lord Vex watched in shock as 50 of his ships went dark. The humans had somehow turned a planet into a star. This was supposed to be impossible for such a primitive species. "Retreat to minimum safe distance," he ordered his remaining ships. "We need to reassess the situation." But the humans were not finished. All over Earth, people were fighting back with whatever weapons they could find. Farmers used tractors to ram alien vehicles. Police officers discovered that their simple pistols could penetrate alien armor. Even children were helping by using slingshots and rocks to break alien equipment. In New York, city nurse Helen Adams was treating wounded soldiers in a hospital basement. But Helen had also rigged the medical equipment to work as weapons. She had turned defibrillators into electric weapons and modified IV drips to deliver poison instead of medicine. When aliens tried to capture the hospital, they got a very unpleasant surprise. The tide of battle was turning. The aliens had expected an easy victory over a primitive species. Instead, they found themselves fighting humans who refused to give up and who could turn anything into a weapon. Every human seemed to be a soldier, and every piece of human technology could be modified for war. By the end of the first day of fighting, the aliens had lost over 100 ships. Thousands of their soldiers were dead or wounded. The humans had also suffered heavy casualties, but they kept fighting. Lord Vex was beginning to realize that conquering Earth might not be as simple as he had thought. In the underground laboratory, Dr. Chun was already working on his next project. If one stellar ignition device could turn Jupiter into a star, then multiple devices could turn other gas giants into stars too. Soon the entire solar system might be filled with artificial suns. That would make it impossible for the aliens to navigate or attack. The humans had shown the galaxy, something that no other species had ever done before. They had fought back against the Zellarian Empire and won their first victories. The war was just beginning, but already the aliens were learning that underestimating humanity was a deadly mistake. Word of the battles was spreading through alien communication networks to other parts of the galaxy. For the first time in thousands of years, other enslaved species were hearing about successful resistance against the Empire. The news gave them something they had not felt in generations: hope. News of humanity's victories traveled faster than light through the alien communication networks. On distant worlds, enslaved species heard whispers about the humans who had fought back against the Zellarian Empire and won. The Sorok were lizard people with green scales who lived on hot desert planets. They had been slaves to the Empire for 800 years. When they heard about the human resistance, their leaders gathered in secret caves to discuss what this might mean. The humans destroyed 50 Imperial ships in one day, said Elder Krask as he read the intercepted reports. No species has ever done such damage to the Empire. The Vethans were beings made of living crystal who thought very slowly but remembered everything. They had been conquered by the Empire 2,000 years ago. Their crystal cities unfrozen. Worlds had been turned into mining camps. But now the Vethans began to vibrate with harmonious sounds that meant they were excited. They had waited centuries for someone to show that the Empire could be defeated. Commander Jake Morrison was now leading a fleet of converted human ships through the asteroid belt. His new flagship was called the Defiant Star. It used to be a mining vessel that dug precious metals out of asteroids. Maya Rodriguez had modified it with armor plating and weapon systems, built from spare parts. Jake's fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. There was a luxury cruise ship that rich people once used for vacations. Now it was armed with missile launchers and carried a crew of volunteer soldiers. A research ship that studied planets was now equipped with plasma cutters that could slice through alien hulls. Even old cargo freighters had been turned into warships. "This is not how space battles are supposed to be fought," said Lieutenant Amy Foster as she piloted a converted garbage collector through the asteroid field. Her ship was carrying a load of stellar ignition charges that Dr. Chun had built in. His laboratory, the Zellarian Empire, had rules about how space combat should work. Ships were supposed to line up and shoot energy weapons at each other until one side surrendered. Battles happened in open space where both sides could see each other clearly. The stronger fleet with better technology always won, but humans did not follow these rules. Jake's ships hid behind asteroids and ambushed alien patrols. They used the mining equipment on their converted ships to throw rocks at enemy vessels. When alien ships tried to pursue them, the humans led them into asteroid fields where the large Imperial vessels could not maneuver properly. Dr. Alex Chun was working on his most dangerous project yet. He called it the Starfire Protocol. Instead of just turning single planets into temporary stars, he wanted to create chain reactions in entire nebulae. These clouds of gas and dust existed between star systems. If he could ignite them, they would create walls of nuclear fire that could destroy whole fleets. Engineer Maya Rodriguez was building the devices that would make this possible. She worked 18 hours a day in the underground laboratory welding metal and connecting circuits. The Starfire bombs were bigger than the Jupiter device, but they used the same basic principles. Nuclear fusion could be triggered artificially if you knew how to do it. "How many of these do you think we will need?" Maya asked as she finished another bomb. Alex looked at star charts that showed the location of nebulae near Earth. "If we can ignite the Orion Nebula and the Eagle Nebula, we can create a barrier of fire between Earth and the main Imperial fleet. They will not be able to get reinforcements through burning gas clouds that extend for hundreds of light years. Meanwhile, Emperor Crex Valorius was becoming very angry on the Imperial capital world. He had ruled the galaxy for 300 years, and no species had ever successfully resisted his armies. The reports from Earth made no sense to him. How can primitives with chemical rockets defeat ships that travel faster than light? He demanded of his generals. General Zex Korov was the Emperor's most trusted military commander. He had conquered 40 star systems for the Empire, but even he was confused by what was happening at Earth. Your Majesty, the humans fight differently than any species we have encountered before. They do not follow standard combat protocols. They convert civilian equipment into weapons. They hide instead of fighting honorably in open space. The Emperor's rage made the air in the throne room vibrate with dangerous energy. Send the Silver Legion, elite warriors with personal cloaking devices and plasma cannons. 10,000 of our finest soldiers should be enough to pacify one primitive planet. On Earth, Dr. Rachel Parker was studying captured alien technology in a laboratory at MIT. Rachel was a xenobiologist who specialized in studying alien life forms. She had never expected to examine actual aliens, but the battlefield wreckage gave her plenty of specimens to work with. What Rachel discovered changed everything. Zalarian technology was based on bioneural interfaces. The aliens connected their brains directly to their machines. This made their technology very advanced, but it also created a weakness. Their nervous systems operated on specific electromagnetic frequencies. Rachel worked with electrician Sam Davis to build devices that could disrupt these frequencies. Sam had been installing electrical systems in buildings for 20 years. He understood how electromagnetic fields worked better than most scientists. If we can broadcast the right frequency, we might be able to shut down their technology. Rachel explained to Sam as they worked on a prototype device. Sam connected wires to a modified radio transmitter. This should do it. It is basically a really powerful radio that broadcasts on the frequency that hurts their brains. The first test of the neural disruptor happened when a patrol of cloaked Zalarian soldiers tried to infiltrate a human base. The soldiers were invisible to normal sensors, but Rachel's device made them suddenly appear and fall down unconscious. The humans captured all of them without firing a single shot. Captain Morrison received reports about the neural disruptor and immediately ordered his engineers to install the devices on every human ship. Now, when alien vessels got too close, the humans could shut down their computers and weapons systems just by turning on a radio. Meanwhile, Tony Russo and Danny Brown were organizing civilian resistance fighters in small towns across America. Taught farmers and mechanics how to modify their equipment for combat. Tractors became tanks. Crop dusting planes became bombers. Even lawnmowers were converted into remote-controlled explosive devices. The aliens expect us to fight like soldiers, Tony explained to a group of volunteers in a barn outside Dallas. But we are not soldiers. We are mechanics and farmers and teachers. We fight with what we know how to use. The Silver Legion arrived at Earth, expecting to find a planet full of frightened primitives. Instead, they found humans who had spent weeks preparing for exactly this kind of attack. Every major city had hidden neural disruptor stations. When the elite alien soldiers tried to use their cloaking devices, they found that the technology no longer worked. Colonel Pete Jackson led the defense of Washington, D.C., when 1,000 Silver Legion warriors landed in the city center. The aliens were heavily armed and wore advanced power armor, but their equipment stopped working as soon as Rachel's disruptors were activated. Fire at will, Pete commanded his soldiers. The battle was over in minutes. The elite alien warriors found themselves fighting humans with simple weapons, while their own technology failed them. Without their advanced equipment, they were just ordinary soldiers facing enemies who knew the local terrain perfectly. Similar battles happened in cities around the world. The Silver Legion had never faced an enemy that could neutralize their technology. They had trained for centuries to fight other species that used energy weapons and force fields. They did not know how to fight humans who used bullets and explosives and electromagnetic interference. Admiral Susan Wright was preparing humanity's first offensive mission beyond the solar system. She had converted several large cargo ships into colony vessels filled with volunteers who wanted to take the fight directly to alien worlds. "We cannot just defend Earth forever," Susan explained to her staff officers. "If we want to win this war, we need to attack their supply lines and home bases." The converted colony ships were loaded with stellar ignition charges and neural disruptors. Each ship carried 500 human volunteers, including soldiers and civilians who had combat experience. Their mission was to find alien outposts and destroy them using the same tactics that had worked so well in Earth's solar system. Dr. Chun completed the first star, firebombs, and loaded them onto fast courier ships piloted by volunteers like Danny Brown. These ships would travel to nearby nebulae and ignite massive gas clouds. The resulting fires would burn for thousands of years and create barriers that alien fleets could not cross. Word of humanity's continued. Resistance was spreading throughout the galaxy faster than the Empire could suppress it. Enslaved species on distant worlds began to organize their own resistance movements. They had learned from intercepted communications that the humans used simple technology and clever tactics instead of trying to match alien weapons directly. The Sorok started using their knowledge of desert warfare to ambush Imperial patrols on their home worlds. The Vethans discovered that their crystal bodies could be used to focus energy weapons in unexpected ways. Captain Amy Foster stood on the bridge of the Solar Fury as it traveled through hyperspace toward the Centauri system. Her ship was leading humanity's first deep space battle group into alien territory. The Solar Fury had once been a passenger liner that carried tourists to space resorts. Now it was armed with plasma cutters and loaded with stellar ignition charges. Amy's fleet consisted of 12 converted ships carrying 800 human volunteers. They were going to attack the alien supply depot at Proxima Station. Intelligence. Reports from Sorok rebels indicated that the station supplied fuel and weapons to Imperial fleets in over 50 star systems. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission from an unknown source," reported Communications Officer Bobby Kim. The main screen showed a reptilian face with green scales and yellow eyes. It was Elder Krask of the Sorok Resistance speaking from a hidden base on his desert homeworld. "Human warriors, we greet you with honor," Krask said in heavily accented English. "We have learned your language from intercepted transmissions. The Sorok people offer assistance in your fight against the Empire." Amy had been hoping for this moment. Earth strategists knew that humanity could not defeat the entire Galactic Empire alone. They needed allies among the enslaved species. "Elder Krask, we accept your offer of friendship," Amy replied. "What can you tell us about Proxima Station?" Krask's image was joined by another alien that looked like a living crystal formation. This was Speaker Zilth of the Vithans. The crystal being's voice sounded like musical chimes when it spoke. "We have detailed maps of the station's layout and security systems," Zilth chimed. "The Vethans maintained the station's computers before the Empire replaced us with automated systems. We know its weaknesses." The alliance between humans and the enslaved alien species was growing stronger every day. The Sorok provided intelligence about Imperial fleet movements. The Vethans shared crystalline technology that humans could adapt into weapons. Other species contributed their own knowledge and resources to the rebellion. Back in Earth's solar system, Dr. Alex Chun was preparing to test his most ambitious project yet. He had built a device that could trigger stellar cascade reactions. Instead of igniting single gas clouds, the device could chain react the nuclear fires across multiple star systems. The cascade bomb was contained in a sphere the size of a basketball, but it held enough destructive power to turn an entire solar system into an expanding ball of nuclear fire. Dr. Chun knew that using such a weapon would essentially commit genocide against any species living in the target system. "Are we sure we want to build something this powerful?" Maya Rodriguez asked as she helped Alex load the device onto a test spacecraft. Alex looked at reports showing Imperial fleet movements toward Earth. Emperor Valorius was assembling these. Largest military force in galactic history. Over 5,000 ships were gathering at the Empire's capital system, preparing for a final assault on humanity. "If we don't have this weapon ready, the Empire will destroy Earth and every human colony," Alex replied. "Sometimes the choice is between terrible options and even worse ones." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Bobby Kim was developing new combat tactics aboard the Solar Fury. Bobby had been a Navy pilot before joining the Space Force. He understood that humans needed to maximize their advantages in speed and unpredictability. Bobby's innovation was called fireship tactics. Human vessels would be loaded with stellar ignition charges and flown directly into alien capital ships. The pilot would escape in a small pod at the last second while the ship rammed into the enemy and exploded like a star. "It's basically a suicide attack, except the pilot survives," Bobby explained to Captain Amy. "The psychological impact on the aliens will be huge. They've never faced an enemy willing to sacrifice their ships so completely." The first test of fireship tactics happened during the attack on Proxima Station. The alien depot was protected by 50 Imperial warships and a network of defensive platforms. Under normal circumstances, Amy's small fleet would have no chance against such defenses, but humans did not fight normal battles. As the Solar Fury and its escorts approached the station, they released a swarm of small ships loaded with explosives. The alien defenders focused their fire on these obvious threats while ignoring what looked like harmless cargo pods. The cargo pods were actually fireships piloted by volunteers like Danny Brown. Danny had been flying dangerous missions since the war began. His modified crop duster had been replaced by a sleek spacecraft built specifically for ramming attacks. "This is Danny Brown beginning attack run," he announced over the radio as his fireship accelerated toward the station's main reactor. The aliens realized too late what was happening. Danny's ship smashed into the reactor core and detonated its stellar ignition charge. The explosion turned the entire space station into a miniature star that burned for several minutes before cooling into twisted metal. The destruction of Proxima Station sent shockwaves through the Imperial military. The humans had attacked a target hundreds of light years from Earth and completely destroyed it. No rebellious species had ever demonstrated such long-range offensive capability. News of the victory reached Earth just as Emperor Valorius made his declaration of total war. The Emperor appeared on communication screens throughout the galaxy, wearing his ceremonial armor made from the bones of extinct species. "The human infestation will be cleansed from this galaxy," the Emperor announced. "I am assembling the full might of the Imperial fleet. Every ship and every warrior will participate in the final assault on their homeworld." Dr. Rachel Parker was working frantically to improve her neural disruptor technology. She had discovered that different alien species used different brain frequencies. The Zalarians operated on one frequency, while the Sarok used another. She needed to build devices that could disrupt multiple species at once. Working with electrician Sam Davis and computer programmer Lisa Hayes, Rachel developed the Universal Neural Disruptor. This device could scan alien brain patterns and automatically adjust its frequency to match any species. It was like having a skeleton key that could unlock any alien nervous system. This should work on any species in the galaxy, Rachel explained as she tested the device on captured alien prisoners. We can shut down their technology, regardless of what species is operating it. Meanwhile, ordinary humans continued to play crucial roles in the war effort. Farmer Joe Martinez had been studying alien supply chains and logistics. Joe understood how food production and distribution worked from his years of growing crops and getting them to market. Joe realized that the Imperial fleet required massive amounts of supplies to operate. They needed fuel for their ships and food for their crews. By attacking supply convoys and destroying storage facilities, the humans could starve the alien fleet even if they could not defeat it in direct combat. War is like farming, Joe explained to a group of resistance leaders. You need to understand the whole system from planting to harvest. The Empire's supply chain has weak points just like any other system. Librarian Nancy Thompson was creating propaganda broadcasts that encouraged rebellion among enslaved species. Nancy had spent her career organizing information and understanding how ideas spread through populations. She knew how to craft messages that would inspire action. Nancy's broadcasts were transmitted on frequencies that alien communication networks could not block. She told stories about human victories and explained the tactics that rebels could use against Imperial forces. Her words reached millions of enslaved beings throughout the galaxy. Freedom is not something that others give you, Nancy said in one of her most famous broadcasts. Freedom is something you take when you refuse to accept slavery any longer. The Battle of Proxima Station became the largest space battle in galactic history. Amy Foster's human fleet was joined by rebel ships from dozens of species. The Sorok contributed fast attack craft that could strike and retreat quickly. The Vithans provided crystalline vessels that could focus energy weapons with incredible precision. The Imperial fleet at Proxima numbered over 2,000 ships. They had been sent to reinforce the station after receiving reports of human activity in the area. When they arrived, they found the station destroyed and a combined rebel fleet waiting for them. All ships attack according to the Chaos Protocol. Amy ordered over the fleet communication system. The Chaos Protocol was a new battle strategy developed by human tacticians. Instead of forming organized battle lines, the rebel ships would attack from all directions at once. Each ship would choose its own targets and use whatever tactics seemed most appropriate. The goal was to create so much confusion that the aliens could not coordinate their defenses. The battle lasted for 18 hours. Human fire ships rammed into alien capital vessels, while Sorok fighters attacked supply ships and Vithan crystal. Ships used focused energy beams to cut through enemy armor. The aliens fought bravely, but they could not adapt to the chaotic battle tactics fast enough. When the shooting stopped over half, the Imperial fleet had been destroyed. The rebels had lost many ships too, but they had proven that the Empire could be defeated even when they had superior numbers. More importantly, they had captured dozens of alien vessels intact, along with their crews and technology. The final battle began at Zalarios Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Empire. Emperor Crex Valorius had assembled the largest military force in galactic history. Over 5,000 Imperial ships filled the space around the triple star system that powered the Empire's home worlds. Every vessel in the Imperial fleet was there, including the massive dreadnought that served as the Emperor's personal flagship. Admiral Jake Morrison led the human fleet toward this overwhelming enemy force. The Terran Liberation Force consisted of only 800 ships, but each one carried crew members who had spent months adapting alien technology and developing new tactics. Jake's flagship was now the Liberty's Fire, a converted asteroid mining ship that had been rebuilt with the most advanced weapons humanity could create. The human fleet was joined by rebel ships from across the galaxy. Elder Krask commanded a squadron of Sorok desert fighters that moved like schools of fish through space. Speaker Zilth led Vithan crystal ships that could focus energy beams with surgical precision. Dozens of other species had sent their own vessels to participate in what everyone knew would be the final battle of the war. Dr. Patricia Walsh sat in the Liberty's Fire Science Lab, facing the most difficult decision any human had ever confronted. Her stellar cascade bomb was ready for deployment. The device could trigger chain reactions that would turn the entire Zelario system into an expanding ball of nuclear fire. It would end the war instantly, but it would also destroy 3 inhabited planets and kill billions of sentient beings. Are we liberators or genociders? Patricia asked herself as she looked at the activation controls. The bomb represented everything. That was terrible about war, but it might be the only way to save Earth and the billions of humans living throughout the galaxy. Captain Amy Foster was aboard her ship Solar Fury, preparing for what might be humanity's last battle. She had volunteered to lead the first wave of fireship attacks against the Imperial fleet. Amy knew that many of the pilots in her squadron would not survive the next few hours, but they were willing to sacrifice themselves to protect their home world. The battle began when Emperor Valorius transmitted a message to the human fleet. His image appeared on every screen, showing a creature whose silver skin had been decorated with the bones and gems of conquered species. His 4 arms moved in gestures of contempt as he spoke. Primitive humans, you have caused enough trouble for this galaxy. Surrender now and I will make your deaths quick and painless. Continue to resist, and I will make your planet burn for 1,000 years. Admiral Morrison replied from the bridge of the Liberty's fire. Emperor Valorius, we reject your offer. Humanity will never surrender to tyranny. We would rather die fighting than live as slaves. The Emperor's response was to order his entire fleet to attack at once. 5,000 ships opened fire simultaneously, creating a storm of energy beams and plasma missiles that lit up space like a deadly fireworks display. The human fleet scattered and began implementing tactics that the galaxy had never seen before. Jake Morrison had studied every battle report from the war and developed a strategy called the Stellar Maze Protocol. Instead of fighting the Imperial fleet directly, the humans would use their secret weapons to turn the battlefield itself into a weapon. Engineer Maya Rodriguez activated the first phase of the plan from her position in the Liberty's Fire Engineering section. Hidden throughout the Zelario system were stellar ignition charges that human infiltrators had placed months earlier. Maya triggered the devices one by one, turning asteroids and gas clouds into temporary stars. Suddenly, the space around Zelario's prime was filled with dozens of artificial suns that burned with nuclear fire. The Imperial fleet found itself flying through a maze of stars that disrupted their sensors and communications. Ships that flew too close to the ignited masses suffered radiation damage and system failures. Lieutenant Bobby Kim led a squadron of fire ships through the stellar maze toward the Emperor's flagship. Bobby had volunteered for this mission, knowing that it was almost certainly a one-way trip. His ship was loaded with enough stellar ignition charges to turn a small moon into a star. This is Bobby Kim beginning final attack run, he announced over the radio as his ship accelerated through the maze of burning gas clouds. The Emperor's flagship was the largest ship ever built by the Empire. It was 10 kilometers long and protected by energy shields that could deflect the firepower of an entire fleet. But the shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not kinetic impacts from ships moving at incredible speed. Bobby's fireship smashed into the flagship's main hull and detonated its cargo of stellar ignition charges. The explosion was visible from the other side of the galaxy as the Emperor's vessel was consumed by nuclear fire. Emperor Valorius died instantly, along with 10,000 of his elite guards. But the battle was far from over. The Imperial fleet still outnumbered the rebels by more than 6-1. Without their emperor, the alien commanders began fighting more desperately, knowing that defeat would mean the end of their civilization. Dr. Rachel Parker was aboard a Sorok vessel, using her universal neural disruptor to shut down Imperial ship systems. Every time an alien vessel got within range, Rachel's device would broadcast the frequencies that disrupted their bio-neural interfaces. Entire ships would suddenly go dark as their crews lost control of their technology. Meanwhile, ordinary humans continued to play heroic roles in the battle. Danny Brown was piloting a converted garbage ship through the Imperial fleet, dropping modified stellar ignition charges like depth charges. Each explosion created a small star that burned for several minutes and damaged nearby enemy vessels. Farmer Joe Martinez was coordinating supply lines for the human fleet from his command ship in the rear of the formation. Joe understood logistics better than most military officers. He made sure that every human ship had enough ammunition and fuel to keep fighting, even during the longest battle in galactic history. Teacher Karen Wells commanded a squadron of converted school buses that had been equipped with weapons and launched into space. Her pilots were mostly teachers and parents who had volunteered to fight for their children's future. They flew their improvised warships with determination that amazed even veteran military officers. The tide of battle began to turn when Speaker Zilth discovered a weakness in the Imperial fleet formation. The alien ships were still trying to fight according to traditional tactics that had worked for thousands of years. They formed organized battle lines and concentrated their fire on the largest enemy targets. But the human fleet did not follow these rules. Zilth used her crystal ship's communication systems to coordinate a simultaneous attack by every rebel vessel in the fleet. Instead of targeting the Imperial flagship or command ships, the rebels all attacked supply vessels and support craft at the same time. Within minutes, the Imperial fleet lost its fuel ships, ammunition carriers, and repair vessels. The massive warships were still functional, but they could not sustain combat operations without logistical support. Many alien ships began to retreat from the battle as their crews realized they would be stranded in enemy territory without supplies. Dr. Walsh made her decision about the stellar Cascade bomb. Instead of using it to destroy the Zelario system, she would detonate it in empty space between star systems. The explosion would create a barrier of nuclear fire that would prevent Imperial reinforcements from reaching the battle, but would not harm inhabited worlds. The Cascade bomb detonated in the void between galaxies, creating a wall of burning plasma that stretched across hundreds of light years. Imperial fleets trying to reach Zelario's prime found their path blocked by nuclear fire that would burn for thousands of years. As the battle continued, the human fleet began to gain the upper hand through superior tactics and unbreakable determination. Every human pilot seemed willing to sacrifice their ship to destroy enemy vessels. The aliens had never faced an enemy with such complete dedication to victory. Colonel Pete Jackson led the ground assault on Zelarios, Prime itself using converted landing craft that had been built for exploring planets. Pete's soldiers established beachheads on the Empire's capital world and began attacking the government centers that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. The final moment of the war came when Admiral Morrison himself piloted a fireship directly at the Imperial Command Center on Zelario's Prime. The building was protected by the most advanced defensive systems in the galaxy, but Morrison's ship was carrying Dr. Chun's most powerful stellar ignition device. The explosion turned the Imperial capital into a second sun that burned away 10,000 years of tyrannical government. The light from the burning city could be seen from orbit as symbols of oppression were consumed by nuclear fire. With their emperor dead, their fleet scattered, and their capital world burning, the remaining Imperial forces began to surrender. Species that had been enslaved for centuries suddenly found themselves free to govern their own worlds. The Galactic Empire that had ruled for 10 millennia collapsed in a single day. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. Thousands of worlds needed to establish new governments. Trade networks that had been controlled by the Empire needed to be rebuilt. Most importantly, the galaxy needed to learn how to live without the fear of imperial conquest.